Good morning, Pearl Jam fan community. Welcome back to Wishlist Foundation's interview series, Candle of Thought, where we illuminate the people, causes, and music that are important to the Pearl Jam community. I'm Chrissie Ferguson. Today's topic will be a bit more somber as we have a more serious conversation on this very, very sad day, the day of Glen Hansard's public wake in Dublin. The loss of Glen has left a hole in the hearts of our music community. For many, the grief may feel deeper because Glen had a personal relationship with you. Maybe you met him once or twice and had a meaningful conversation with him. Maybe you are simply a fan. But no matter what relationship you had with Glen, your heart is hurting. I'm sorry. My heart is hurting, and our hearts are hurting together. And we are here to let you know that it is okay to feel this way. So I welcome back author Rob Janicke to our podcast to help us understand what we are collectively feeling. Rob has done a tremendous amount of research, speaking with psychologists, counselors, professors, and therapists about the psychology of impersonal grief and why it is normal to grieve the loss of someone many of us have never met. We also want to talk about strategies for coping with our sadness and how we can honor and remember Glen throughout our lives. So thanks for being here, Rob, to help many of us through this difficult process.
Thank you, Chrissie, for having me. This is a very difficult subject to talk about, but I think it's one that needs to be talked about, especially now.
It definitely does. And last Wednesday, we all woke up to this devastating news, and I think we all probably responded in different ways. I know
Yeah.
I woke up and I almost couldn't believe it. I was in shock, so I just kept scrolling Instagram and thinking, is this really happening? Did this really happen?
Yeah.
And I feel like I just spent like a couple days really not doing anything.
Hmm.
Couldn't quite figure out how to express what I was feeling. I posted, my own story about last year at Ohana and witnessing that beautiful
And
moment with Ed and Glen singing Falling Slowly. And I felt like I should share that video with people. Posted that on Wishlist as well.
hmm
But other than that, I was feeling this extreme sadness, and then I'd see other people's posts and I would cry. And I felt like, how is everyone else feeling? How are we as fans? I never got to meet him. I saw him perform many times, but I think that I was feeling a lot like other people were feeling. Like, is it strange that I'm crying over a man I've never met? And I would love for you to talk to me a little bit about what you've learned through your research.
Yeah. Well, you're not alone in those feelings at all. I did the same thing. I woke up and I couldn't believe it, and I scrolled, and I'm sure just like you, my feed is almost all music, and it was story after story, people's accounts. I've seen him several times as well, but I've never met him, and it was just heartbreaking. And as a writer, I don't know what to do when I'm upset or confused, except to write. It's almost therapeutic sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So it made me think about people, musicians particularly, that I've never met, who have died and affected me in a way that was affecting all of, you know, Glen Hansard's fan base, which I am a part of, all the way back to Kurt Cobain and David Bowie, Lane Staley, Chris Cornell. And I remember feeling like, I was crushed, as a music fan, I think first, and then I started to think like, wow, like I feel like I lost a friend, and I didn't understand why. I'd never met any of these people, and so I started to, do some research, and I included it in my book with some professionals that I interviewed, and I realized this topic isn't talked about enough. So I wrote this article to sort of get my own feelings out, but also to let people know like this is okay. You're normal. Like you're human, and in particular when it comes to music, I think music fans like us, who take it so seriously and it's so important to us, I guess we feel a little bit deeper about music. And when we lose people who make the music we love, like it doesn't, if you, it makes sense. If you really think about it, it makes sense why we, will grieve someone we've never met. So I wrote the article, and the reaction has been more than I can ever, explain or would have imagined. But, I honestly do think people are getting a little bit of comfort from it, just knowing that they're not alone in feeling out of place.
Right. And what were some of the things you mentioned earlier to me that people were even DMing you about your thoughts and what you had shared? And what were some of the things that people were saying about Glenn and how his music affected them or was a part of their lives?
Yeah, it was astounding. I tried to answer as many as I could, but I'm not exaggerating. There were hundreds that were coming in, and most of them, the common thread was they had all gone through very difficult times in their lives, and music, and in particular Glenn's, and they would cite songs, or they would cite lyrics, or they would cite a particular show that they had been to, and even some who have met him, that all of that helped them through those times. And I mean, people who lost children, people who lost siblings, um, people who knew people that committed suicide, and uh, just horrific things in their lives, and they're telling me, a stranger, all of this, and they were saying, it's because of the article. Like, I feel like I can tell you, I feel like I can say this because, like, I'm not okay, but I kind of know there's other people like me, and so I'm somewhat okay.
Yeah.
That's
And what's some of the research and who are some of the people that you've spoken to who've, you know, you've quoted as them letting us know that this is completely normal?
yeah.
Can you maybe include some of the quotes that you had in the article or any people you've spoken with who are
Yeah,
experts in this
sure.
field?
Yeah, I mean, if I don't have them off memory, but if I can read them off, from the article if you'd like.
Sure.
Um, so one of the let's see here. Okay, so one of the people I interviewed, Joseph Williams, therapist, cognitive behavioral therapist, counselor, um, does a lot of work in this area, and a lot of his clients are, younger and very much into music and entertainment. And in one of the passages that him and I talked about, or one of the quotes, I should say, he wrote, "It allowed kids going through the same things to share a universality of suffering, a universality of understanding. These kids no longer felt alone. I had conversations about the death of artists such as Kurt, and more recently Chester Bennington of Linkin Park, with clients who were fans of theirs. From those conversations, I can say that although the relationship was not physical, it still hurts to lose someone who, as my clients put it, understood me, who understood my struggle, who wasn't afraid to come forward. Someone who believed in the same thing as me: cause, ideals, values." So that was one of the quotes. There are more, but that one, sort of gave some sense to why people would feel so close to somebody that they've never met, because those emotional feelings, we all have them, and no one wants to be alone in anything that they do. So it kind of drew them in, to some of their favorite artists, and I think this is why they felt, or I know this is why they're feeling the way they feel now,
Right.
about Glenn.
Yeah, and I think I know community is what is going to help all of us to, get through this difficult time and to continue to remember Glenn and honor Glenn. We've seen, posts of hundreds of people in the streets in Dublin singing Glenn's
Hmm.
music. And, obviously, as we talked about, people are posting their own videos and their own memories, which is also kind of therapeutic.
Yeah.
For you and I, writing is a great way to kind of get through this difficult time and try to express what we're feeling. Um, what would be some of your suggestions for people who might be feeling alone? Maybe they don't have that music community and, where they
Hmm.
are. What would you suggest for helping people right now?
So I'll, I'm going to give you one specific conversation I had with somebody. Again, just someone who read the article and reached out to me. I don't know this person. Um, they talked about uh, having lost, both of their parents, and they say they have nobody left, um, and music is the only thing that makes them feel okay. And that's really tough because if you have no one to reach out to, or if you don't have people you feel close enough to reach out to, and music is the thing that gets you by, you really need to start listening or keep listening to music. It's not going to hurt you. It's not going to make it worse. Even if the songs are sad, it almost subconsciously makes you feel connected to all the people who like that music and even the artist. Um, so in that case, I just recommended listening to the music. Don't give up on anything. Just keep listening. Everybody's here. There's an entire community. Just look at social media. You can find them all. The same way you found me. Just they're all out there. The other thing I would suggest through talking to the professionals that I interviewed, because music is such a sense or creates such a sense of community, you need to reach out. You need to go talk to people who feel the same way about music that you do. It doesn't even have to be the same artist necessarily, because people who feel music more so than they hear it, they're going to understand why you're feeling this way.
Good.
And even if they don't have great advice or any advice at all, because this is hard to figure out unless you're a professional, um, they'll be there to listen and they'll get it. And once you're understood and once you sort of feel seen, um, I think that's when you start to kind of get over it, at least the beginning stages of getting over it, and just knowing that you're not alone.
Right. And something else too that has kind of come up in this last week, or gosh, less than a week, is just that everybody grieves differently, and that's also something else, especially for those who were very close with Glenn. Something that we as fans really need to understand and really acknowledge. And what do you say about that and how everybody's grieving process is a bit different?
Mm. So that's tricky because if you don't know, like for me, I have typically one way that I tend to grieve. It's obviously I get sort of deep in thought about what the issue is, and then I write about it. And usually never necessarily for public consumption. It's just sort of like a journal
Mm-hmm.
or maybe a poem or something that I'll never put out. But just putting the words on paper seems to help me. When you don't know or understand how people grieve, it's difficult. The only thing I can say is do what works. I mean, we've all been there before. We've all lost people in our lives at various points, and if it's like in my case, writing, or if it's also listening to music, if it's going for a long drive and clearing your head.
Yep.
There are many ways to do it, but you have to lean into what works, and don't and this is one of the things I've gotten from all these messages I'm receiving. Don't do something because you think other people will ridicule. Like don't not do something because you think it's different or weird, or you don't understand why you're doing it and other people are going to ridicule you for it, just because you know um,
Yep.
instinctively what works for you. Don't let other people take that away from you. Do what
Right.
Best.
Right. And what do you think we can be doing? People who want to pay tribute. Obviously, I think as time moves on, we'll probably see musical tributes and other things like
Yeah.
that. But
Hmm.
people right now are writing stories on social media, sharing stories, sharing videos, um, listening to the music, as you said, is people who
Hmm.
don't know what to do. Um, do you have any suggestions for what they could be doing to try to honor Glenn and his memory?
Uh, I mean, there's a few things that come to mind. Clearly, again, just keep the music alive. Listen to his music, share it. Get people who are in your life that maybe you're not all that close to, and you don't know their musical tastes necessarily. Share his music with them. Help explain why this was so important to you. Um, and this is something that I've thought about a lot, and I've actually done in the past in different circumstances. But um, when you feel very strongly about something, get involved in that. So in this case, it's a little difficult, because it's the death of a human. But you can look toward mental health organizations. Maybe you can volunteer. Maybe you can get some do some research, read books about this topic that we're talking about. Get a little bit more familiar with these feelings. So next time when it happens, and inevitably it will, you can maybe feel a little bit more okay from the start, or maybe a little bit more prepared
Mhm.
for what's to come if you learn more about it.
Right. Well, we thank you so much for your time. This is such a shock and just so upsetting to all of us.
Hmm.
Today is going to be a very difficult day. I'm glad that
Yeah.
many fans in Dublin have the opportunity to pay their respects.
Hmm.
And tomorrow, I believe, is the funeral.
Right.
And but we just want to, we want to. I'd like to just, tell people, our hearts are going out to them.
Yeah.
Um, Especially Glen's wife and his son and all of his family. We're sending so much love to all of
Hmm.
his friends and his bandmates. And of course, that was the other thing, Rob, that I couldn't stop thinking about is when I heard this news, like the people he was so close with, how they're personally affected, his family.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Ed, Jill, Olivia, and Harper.
Hmm.
I was even thinking about like Carrie Kai's, like, who is Ed's sound engineer, who's very close with Glenn and interacted with him and the crew and the photographers, Jeff Whitman,
Yeah.
Danny Clinch, like all of these people. If you are watching this, we are thinking of
Hmm.
you and we are sending so much love and light and strength and to all the fans out there too. We're all thinking of you. And if you have any other questions, you could always reach out to me or reach out to Rob, and we'll do our best to make sure that we get you some answers. But thank you so much for taking this time so that we could be with our community today, Rob. I really appreciate it.
No, of course, anytime, Chrissy. And this is, like I said, it's a very important topic overall, but it's also incredibly heartbreaking for Glenn and his family and his close friends, like you talked about in the music world, and his legion of fans. So, thank you for doing this. Thank you for putting this out there so people can see it. And this will just be another one of the things that I think hopefully. Um, makes them feel a little bit better, or at least makes them feel like they're connected to like-minded people, and that's incredibly important.
It's very important. Thank you, Rob.
You're welcome. Thank you.